Hello, my name is Dr. Ryan Moran, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Alabama in the United States. My presentation is the development of a tandem gait alternative for concussion assessment in parasport athletes, understanding the preliminary effects of sex, concussion history, and dual task. This is a pre-recorded presentation for the virtual format of Vista 2025. The sport concussion assessment tools, in its modern iteration, the SCAT-6, includes timed tandem gait and dual task tandem gait as components of coordination and balance examination. Timed tandem gait is where the individual walks heel to toe along a 3-meter line, as you can see in the picture in the top right. In the bottom video, you can also observe how the individual is walking heel to toe with the left foot and the right foot alternating in front of one another as they walk along this 3-meter line, walking one direction, turning around, and coming back. Under the dual task component, the individual is utilizing a cognitive exercise, such as counting backwards out loud or spelling a word in reverse order out loud. These tandem gait tests cannot be administered in wheelchair users and para-athletes due to the inability to perform heel-to-toe walking, as you can see in the bottom video. The wheelchair error scoring system was developed as an alternative to the balance error scoring system and the modified version by having a para-athlete in an upright seated posture with their hands on their hips and their eyes open and eyes closed while seated on a firm surface as well as an unstable surface such as a balance disc. What we aimed to do was to develop a novel alternative to this dynamic tandem gait in a para population by utilizing a wheelchair propulsion task. This novel task consisted of para-athletes self-propelling in their day chair down and back along a 9-meter line, as you can see in the picture to the right. The individuals were instructed to not perform any power pushes. We wanted them to constantly feed their wheel while maintaining a centered position, but also not going so fast that they were wobbling or deviating from that side line. This was not included in the analyses, but individuals were also seated on a pressure mapping system that were recording center of pressure results. So our main research question was understanding the preliminary effects of sex between males and females, concussion history between those with and without a history of concussion, and comparing single to dual task administration on this novel wheelchair propulsion task that may be able to serve as an alternative to tandem gait assessments in a para population. The participants in this study consisted of 21 university para athletes that were largely males. As you can see, 13 males and 8 females, along with 5 individuals that had a history of concussion. Participants completed 3 trials of both the single and the dual task conditions for the wheelchair propulsion. The cognitive task that was utilized for dual task assessment was looking at backwards serial integers, where the individuals, for example, were counting backwards from 100 by 7s, where they would say 100, 93, and then continue that sequence. Depending on that, individuals may have modified that to serial integers of 5 or 6s. The main outcome measure was average completion time in seconds for each of the 3 trials of single and dual task. Independent variables consisted of sex between males and females, concussion history between those with and without a history of concussion, and then comparing single to dual task performance. Statistical analyses consisted of Mann-Whitney U-tests for group comparisons for sex and concussion history. Wilcoxon-Stein rank tests were used for evaluating single to dual task effects. First, our results for sex. There were no differences in average completion time between males and females during the single task propulsion. As you can see, these are all of the individuals in the study, with the blue color representing males and the pink color representing females. When we look at concussion history, we notice very similar observations. There were no differences between those with and without a history of concussion. As you can note here, individuals with no history, noted by the black line, and those with a concussion history, noted by those in the red line. However, when we looked at the effects of dual task, we noticed that there were significant differences between single to dual task, specifically with a little over 1 second increase in time for the dual task component. This was anticipated as it is assumed that individuals will take longer to complete a dual task component because of the added factor of a cognitive exercise. So you can see here the individuals had an average completion time of single task, as noted in the blue, as well as then the dual task and the increase in completion time for each of those individuals under the green highlighted lines. It should be noted that there were one individual that had greater than a 5-second slowing from single to dual task, 4 individuals each for 3 to 4.9 seconds, from 1 to 2.9 seconds, and there were 7 individuals that had an increase just less than 1 second. Should be noted that there were actually 5 athletes that had faster dual task time, which we believe is noted by individuals that were prioritizing the balancing and the propulsion over the cognitive task. So, consistency of performance between both sexes and concussion history groups provides preliminary insight into the lack of modifying factors for baseline concussion assessment. This is very important for our clinicians as they may not expect to see differences in this wheelchair propulsion between sexes and concussion history groups. Dual task propulsion slowing mirrors what we see in dual task tandem gait, typically 2 to 4 second slowing in university athletes. Our main limitation was not incorporating a cognitive accuracy, so not recording the number of math and cognitive errors that can help us understand whether these athletes are prioritizing the wheelchair propulsion and balance or whether they're prioritizing the cognitive exercise. We also did not control for functional classification or specific pathologies and conditions such as spinal cord injury or spina bifida. Future research is needed to determine whether diagnostic accuracy for both single and dual task wheelchair propulsion, as well as performance over recovery time points, such as during each stage of a return to sport strategy or potentially at return to play, and understanding the diagnostic accuracy of each of those time points. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and thank you to the University of Pittsburgh for hosting this online format. Any questions can be addressed to me at my email below at rnmoran@ua.edu. Thank you.